Hey guys, this is Comic Uno, and today I'm doing Comic Uno's Best Comics of the Week. And this is a show where I review all the comics I've read this week in one show. We go least favorite to best pick of the week and everything in between. And before I get started, we do talk about the viewer's pick of the week at the end of the video, so be sure to tell me your pick of the week for a chance to be featured. Also, I do have a Kickstarter going on right now, Witching Season, which is a book I'm really excited for. It's 150 pages, all different subgenres of horror talking about witches, and there's some crazy creative teams here. We got Heather Antos, Alex Segura, and some wicked covers, with Sweeney Boo being the exclusive hardcover, Jess Fong, who's been doing those Poison Ivy covers as the regular hardcover, and then also the standard cover is Skylar Patridge, who's been doing the art for Action Comics. So if you are a cover collector, I really recommend the Kickstarter because it's more limited than you'll see in the direct market, and you have big names like Jess Fong, Skylar Patridge, and Sweeney Boo variants of covers. So let's jump into this week's comics. I had a pretty average sized haul. This was a bit of a less big week compared to last week with so many huge titles like DCKO and Absolute Batman. But there is still stuff to talk about and some blind bags to open up. So let's start with number 12, which is Rogue Sun issue 30. This is the medieval Spawn crossover with Rogue Sun, focusing more on that medieval side of Rogue Sun, which has been in the Rogue Sun's head because of the past of what the Rogue Sun character has gone through. And that's the side of the series I'm not as invested in. I'm not as invested in medieval stuff in general, and I don't know much about Spawn, so I don't know if it sold me on Spawn, and I don't know if I got what I wanted from a Rogue Sun story, which is why it's a bit lower. But I think if you like this genre and you already like Spawn, you would enjoy this issue a little bit more. The artwork was really good for this issue though. So giving that 2 stars, and that is number 12, I believe. We are moving on to number 11, which is Sinister's 6, issue 1. Nothing harmful in this issue by any means. The art was okay. It just felt very hollow to me. This was action team up with Colleen Wing and Misty Knight, and they're fighting against the Sinister 6. There's some interesting moments with like Venom and Black Cat, but overall it just didn't do much for me. Maybe if you're more invested in the Revelations world, you'll like this, especially the cliffhanger, but I'm not as invested in this world. So giving that 2.5 stars, and that is number 11. Moving on to number 10, a book I thought was gonna be a lot higher for me, and that is Titans issue 28. I dropped this title a while ago, but DC didn't have a lot of titles out this week, and this was a tie-in to DCKO, so I was like, let me hang out with these characters and see what's going on. But it's very much more what's been going on in Titans than the actual KO event. It doesn't move forward as much, and the artwork with facial expressions has always been a little weird to me. I thought the coloring was okay. It just didn't do it for me. As someone who wasn't really enjoying the series before, it's kind of doing similar stuff. Giving this one 2.5 stars, and that is number 10. Moving on to number 9, which is The Amazing Spider-Man issue 14. I wanted to like this issue a little bit more because I think there was potential in this issue. I was interested in what Norman had to say about not feeling like he's Spider-Man. I was less interested in the Ben stuff, and then in the end you have Hobgoblin wanting to go against Green Goblin. So there's stuff that scratches the surface, but it never goes deeper than that, which makes it feel like a lackluster issue. It just didn't feel like I had that much meat, even though there were things to talk about and to kind of dig deeper into. I like the artwork though. I think it picked a stronger artist for this run in not having John Romita Jr. So giving that 2.5 stars, and that is number 9. Moving on to the topic of the video, we do have, and this is the first time I've read Mark Spears' Monsters books, but we have 5 blind bags. I did have to open one because I forgot to get a reading copy, so I opened one of them. And something I love about these blind bags is in the back, they tell you all the ratios. Also, if you look at even inside the book, they tell you all the ratios. So I love that about this comic book. Also, the quality of the book is really nice. And my first one I have here is a trick cover, they call it. So I think it's a little bit more of a rare one. It's A71, so it's like a mid-rare for that. So that's my first cover. Again, I didn't open up any of the other ones, so we'll see what we have here. And I could read the back to see exactly what book I got. So we have 4 blind bags. Let's open it up. And again, I pre-opened them, that way I'm not trying to play with the scissor for 15 minutes on this video, but I did not look inside. All right, let's see what the first one is. We have this witch cover. And again, Mark Spears did all the art for this. There's like 75 different covers, which is crazy. And they've sold like 350,000 copies, which is great for Marvel and DC. And this is Keenspot, which is an indie publisher that does a lot with Kickstarter. So this is a black and white edition for the comic. I don't know the rarity of that, but it's A63. So I don't know what the rarity of that cover is, but oh, it's not even the black and white version. So it's actually going to be a regular version. So it's just cardstock and foil. So I got the cardstock versions. I think this is pretty not rare. All right, let's move on to the next one. I can't wait to see what the glow-in-the-dark ones are, because I feel like I have to close the lights to find out if they're glow-in-the-dark. So hopefully there's another way to find out if they're glow-in-the-dark. All right. Next up is we got this trick-or-treat type cover where we get to see Dracula hanging out with some kids. So let's see the rarity of that. That looks like it's cardstock as well, so it's just a regular cover. So let's move on. I got two more. May I get a foil? That'd be kind of fun. All right, let's see. The covers are beautiful though. And so far I've gotten all different covers, so it really shows the ratios are always gonna get a different cover. We'll see if that continues. Yeah, so far it's continuing. So we have this kind of unicorn type character, the Cyclops, sorry. So we got a Cyclops. That's also a cardstock, it looks like, so that's a regular cover. And now, last but not least, let's see what we got here. All right. One more. And they show there some ultra rare ones on the side over there. Oh, I did get a double. So I got a double over there. So even with the 1 out of 5 ratios, I did end up getting a double. I'm gonna look at the glow in the dark. I didn't even get any version that would be a glow in the dark, so I didn't get that. So I got the most rare one I got was the one I opened up before, which was the trick cover. But let's talk about the story now. So I want to talk about issue 1 here. It's really cool to see, obviously, the art style that's on these covers are in the interior because Mark Spears draws, writes, and does all this and did all these covers. I'll say story-wise, I don't know if it's my cup of tea, but I really liked the art and I liked how weird it looks and unique. It reminds me a lot of like an old video game, and I think it obviously really works. And this issue doesn't have as much monsters. It doesn't really show up until the end of the issue. But once you do see the monsters, you're like, okay, I get it. Like I get why people really enjoy this title. But I'll say more if you like looking at the art. I think you're gonna get a little bit more from it. I don't know if the story was as grand, but I'm glad I picked this up because honestly, these are kind of my favorite blind bag so far because again I got a lot of different stuff and they showed those ratios, which I liked. So that was number 8. So I'm moving on to number 7, which is the Incredible Hulk issue 30. This is the penultimate to this bigger Hulk series, which I think they're relaunching to the Infernal Hulk, same creative team. We see Bruce and the Hulk separate, and that's most of the issue. There's not much dialogue, it's just like they separate. Now we're gonna get into this bigger story with issue 1. So if you're looking for the prelude to this next series, read this issue. Other than that, it's not a huge issue, but I like the moment, obviously. I didn't really know what was gonna get us to Infernal Hulk, so it's nice to know what the story is going to be. And the art is always good with Nick Klein. So giving that one 3 stars, and that was number 7. Moving on to number 6, which is the Punisher issue 2. This is the Red Band issue. I think it does a good job with the Red Band stuff. I think the action was really good here. I also just like Punisher's vibe. It's exactly what you expect. He's just trying to go shoot people. And I like the juxtaposition of Kingpin though. I really like him kind of being in the background, saying we're one and the same, and hunting him down. I thought that was pretty interesting. So, you know, gave me just enough to want to read more, especially visually, but I want a little bit more story-wise. So giving that 3.5 stars, and that is number 6. Moving on to number 5, I was pleasantly surprised by this one, and that is the Unbreakable X-Men issue 1. I had been kind of on the fence with Uncanny X-Men, but I thought this issue had a little bit more of just one character, which helped the focus, because Rogue ends up fighting with Galactus, and we kind of see that in the beginning, and then Rogue's gone, and we get to see Gambit have to deal with that, and it's more of an emotional issue with that. It's not Dave Marquez, but the art style is very similar to Dave Marquez, so you're like, okay, I get too crazy to get into this issue and feel like you're reading a regular Uncanny X-Men issue. So I thought it was pretty solid. Now, as someone who's not a huge Gambit fan, I don't know if I'm jumping up and being like, wow, you got to pick up this book. But if you are a huge Gambit fan, I think you will like this issue. So giving that 3.5 stars, and that's number 5. Moving on to number 4, which is Power Rangers Prime issue 11. This is an issue that I liked seeing more of these characters just grow. I really liked the progress for this book, where we get to learn a little bit more about Lauren's past, even if you watch the Power Rangers Samurai show, and just seeing these characters connect as their family drama deepens. It was a lot of moving pieces, but I think it all worked to kind of progress the stories. Giving that one 3.5 stars, and that is number 4. Moving on to number 3, which is Terrorbytes issue 1. This is a new Mad Cave series by Mark Russell. I liked it. It was kind of a Black Mirror-esque series. It seems like every issue is going to be something different. And this one is about a VR system that can go into your head and you don't have to deal with death. When you die, you're kind of just living your life instead. And then there's a twist ending of how absurd that is and where that goes. But Mark Russell's so good at social commentary and making it funny that it really works here. When we get to issue 10, will I still be invested? I don't know, but it definitely gave me enough to be like, let's see where issue 2 goes and what that narrative's going to be. So giving that one 3.5 stars, and that is number 3. Moving on to number 2, which is Absolute Flash issue 8. This is a little bit more of an exposition issue, but it was an important exposition issue to find out how Barry Allen kind of became Barry Allen in this universe. We get to learn a little bit more about Dawn's granddaughter, which you're like, okay, we don't know what's going to happen with this character because she is a new character connected to a villain. And you learn more about the Speed Force. Great art. I liked the issue. I thought it was solid. But again, it is an exposition issue, so you kind of have to be ready for a lot of explaining, and I do think they could have showed a little bit more than they explained in this issue. So giving that 4 stars, and that is number 2. Moving on to number 1, the reason this is my number 1 pick is because I haven't been liking Revelations, and this is kind of how I want all the other Revelation books to be, so it surprised me. And that is Iron and Frost. It is mostly just focusing on Emma Frost and how she got to the point where she's Diamond forever. You have a twist ending with Iron Man, and you see where he's at, and you're like, okay, you gave me a cliffhanger to want to buy that next issue. You gave me enough of a character motivation to make me follow through this issue and be like, I want to know what happens to Emma next. The artwork was solid. It just did everything, again, I wish these other Revelation books were doing. So overall, giving that one 4 stars, and that is my pick of the week. Let me know in the comments below what your viewer pick of the week was. Last week, because everyone was talking about KO, we didn't have a viewer's pick of the week, so be sure in the comments to let me know so you could be featured. This is Comic Uno, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye.